Good evening, everyone. I'm constitutional attorney Katherine Henry, and I'm going to try to do a very non-Katherine Henry style video and make it short because I'm hungry and my back condition is actually bothering me today. So sitting in this chair is a little challenging. Very smart woman on my team of dedicated volunteers said yesterday that she thought the people of Michigan could essentially use a pep talk, could benefit from hearing from me, some key reminders that can help people sort through what's going on right now. So to Rachel's credit, I think that's a good idea, and that's what today is all about, or right now this video is all about. So I'm gonna get some notes. I just got an email that I'm going live on YouTube. That's special. So I'm gonna get a couple of things up here to talk to you about, and you might want to yeah, the opening and closing of my door. You're stuck in here now because I don't want to hear the beeping anymore. All right. So holy cow. Okay, I look down and Sergey, I love your I will not comply. I love it. So we do need somebody willing to arrest her. All right. While we're waiting, because, oh my gosh, that's insane. There's already 334 people on. I know I didn't give any notice to this, and I know a lot of people will want to hear, something about what's going on. So what I want to do is start by telling you a few relevant to what's going on, but it's not, I'm not quoting a statute right now. I'm quoting something more important. So first I want to tell you that we are supposed to do what is right. And yes, you know what, Sergey? It's not even civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is when you are violating a law that you believe to be not appropriate or not, perhaps done the right way. I'm asking people to follow the laws that are in place, to follow the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, to disobey the unconstitutional dictates of our governor and our MDHHS director. So it's civil obedience is what I'm asking people to do. Civil obedience to the Constitution, to the word we each gave to each other generations ago to form our very great country and, quite frankly, our great state of Michigan. So anyway, we are supposed to do what is right and not give way to fear. That's in 1 Peter 3:6. And in Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Something I found interesting, and I think we're starting to see, more and more people getting awakened to what's happening, whether it's with the election fraud or whether it's with understanding that our government often does go astray, although we have never quite seen it as blatant and as widespread as we're seeing right now. But, it's always been shady behind closed doors, and now they don't care about being shady. They just tell you they get to rule however they want to, and then people are unfortunately being blind enough to follow. But with that being said, Isaiah 42:20 says, "You have seen many things, but have paid no attention. Your ears are open, yet you hear nothing." So to how we got to where we are right now, that explains it. But in Isaiah 32:3, it says, "Then the eyes of those who see will no longer be closed, and the ears of those who hear will listen." That gives me hope. And even this, "The ruthless will vanish, the mockers will disappear, and all who have an eye for evil will be cut down. Those who with a word make someone out to be guilty, who ensnare the defender in court, and with false testimony deprive the innocent of justice." Isaiah 29:20, verses 20 through 21. So what is that saying? There's a lot of evil people out there right now. A lot of people who are trying to oppress those of us who want to live out as free men, according to 1 Peter 2, verse 16. And we are supposed to live freely. But we're not supposed to live so freely that our freedom is now an excuse for sin. That's what that verse says. And interestingly enough, that comes in the same paragraph where he's saying that we need to be obedient to the governments instituted among men. Kind of interesting, considering that's the very wording of our Declaration of Independence, which then led to our preamble of our state and U.S. constitutions that say that we, the people, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom, earnestly desiring to secure those blessings, undiminished to ourselves and our posterity, do hereby ordain and establish our Constitution. Of course, that's our state constitution, but the U.S. Constitution has similar acknowledgments in there. So, what about this? "Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless." That's in Isaiah 10, verses 1 through 2. So in a book talking to a rebellious nation, right, in Isaiah, it says, "Learn to do right, seek justice, and correct or rebuke the oppressor." And even in Proverbs 31, verse 4 through 5, "It is not for kings to drink wine, nor the rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all the oppressed of their rights." I don't know if Whitmer's been drinking, or if our legislature, who's been sitting on their hind ends for the most part, and then invoking all kinds of new, regulations and laws to rule us with, stripping away our freedoms. I don't know if they've been drinking a little too much, but clearly they're not in the right state of mind when they're doing all these things outside of the context of the Constitution. And lastly, before I really take it home with the provisions I have behind me, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy." And that's in Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 9. So just as a reminder, most of you who know me by now, you've heard me say this before, but I'm not special. I'm not any more special than you are. I'm just as special and unique as God made every single one of us in our own way. But and I am an attorney, but this is not a government of attorneys. This is not a government of politicians. This is not a government of lobbyists and special interest groups. This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So no matter what new order comes out, quite frankly, no matter what law gets passed, even in the proper channels, if it violates the Constitution, the state or federal Constitution, it's null and void. It's as though it never even existed in the first place. So keep that in mind. So we'll talk about the specifics here in a second, but keep that in mind. It does not matter what law is passed, what order is decreed from the governor or from the MDHHS director or, anybody. What matters is that the Constitution is the law of the land. And if the Constitution is violated by those very dictates, orders, laws, they're as though they didn't even exist in the first place. They're void. So remember that. So yes, I have heard of Chris Ann Hall. I don't really have time to look her up. If she wants to contact me, great. I've been a wee bit busy. But let me get the newest and greatest order. This must be just the press release part of it. Or is this the actual order? Okay. Interesting. Okay. What day did this order actually come out, Mike? I want to make sure that this is what you printed, but it's, the 15th. Okay, so I'm talking about the order that was issued on November 15th. What? I'm talking about the order that was issued on November 15th by the MDHHS director. And it goes into effect after midnight tonight. And it's supposedly in effect until December 8th. So let's see here. All right, so this thing, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even read the whole thing yet. No matter what, I could tell you it's illegal and unconstitutional, and I'll get to that in a second. I've already done a video on that. But so there's some highlights. You can't have, in fact, you printed the summary, didn't you? You did. Okay. The pause to save lives. So you can only have people in your house that belong to two different households, supposedly, according to this order. You can be outside only if it's less than 25 people that are gathered. Outside where there's fresh air and, in the outside that God created. Retail stores are open. Some schools are open. Childcare is open. Public transit, healthcare, funerals only up to 25 people. Parks and outdoor recreation. Professional sports without spectators are open, but organized sports and group fitness classes are not open. Why? Well, clearly, COVID doesn't spread amongst professional athletes like it does with high school sports or, at the YMCA or your local gym. So I hope you recognize my sarcasm when I use it. But in other words, that would be a clear example of a equal protection violation that is prohibited in the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. Restaurants and bars are only allowed to do outdoor dining in Michigan in the middle of November. or takeout or delivery. And gyms and pools are allowed to be used for individual exercise only because group fitness classes kill people. So please make sure that you are exercising by yourself, which if you're like me and you have, no rhythm and, you have stuff that might hang out in all kinds of places that you don't want people to see, that is actually, you could say thank you to Governor Whitmer and her little buddy, her sidekick, Robert Gordon here. Hair salons, barbershops, and other personal services, luckily, get to remain open. But high schools are prohibited from in-person learning. Colleges and universities are prohibited from in-person learning. Workplaces are prohibited from being open when work can be done from home. Bowling centers, ice skating rinks, and indoor water parks. Yeah, you guys got like 2-3 months to be open all year. There you go. Bingo halls, casinos, and arcades are closed. Theaters, movie theaters, stadiums, arenas are closed. All kinds of good, fun stuff. Gets better. So they are then saying that you need... I'm going to try to not laugh at this stuff. This is the most insanity I've ever seen in one piece of paper. Pick only one other household to see over the next 3 weeks. Even better, form a consistent social pod. Yeah. Choose a household that is also being careful. Limit duration indoors. The longer the visit, the greater the risk. You need to wear a mask. Only take it off when you eat or drink and then put it right back on. Stay 6 feet apart. Keep your voices down and avoid shouting or cheering because then you get the COVID. And do not share utensils. Of course, after a gathering, you need to monitor yourself for symptoms of COVID-19. And you need to get tested if anyone has any of the symptoms at all. Oh, good gravy. There is I can't even do this. I won't be able to say this with a straight face. So, Safe Social Pods is on their website. If you'd like to see what it includes, I'll just read you their definition. A social pod is a core group of friends or family who agree to limit their in-person social activities to only each other and practice physical distancing with anyone outside of the group. Being part of a pod allows members to continue seeing people outside their household while reducing the risk of spreading COVID-19. If you love the Constitution, you are now part of my Safe Social Pod. I will only choose to physically be near those who love the Constitution. So, in other words, if you don't love the Constitution, if you don't love freedom, if you want to try to force me to do or not do something, including to wear a mask or to give you my phone number or, be a part of some sort of government contact tracing program, you need to keep yourself socially distant from me because I don't want you in my safe pod. So, what about the, I can't even, I hope you guys realize it's now stretched to a point of absurdity that is so ridiculous that I don't even know where to begin anymore. So I've got a lot of sarcasm. And that's pretty much all I've got for you is sarcasm at this point. And with that, my dog says, I'm out of here. So oh boy. So, as with the last order, all children 2 years and older who are on any kind of school bus or organized, whatever collection of children, they have to wear a mask on a bus because that's not unsafe, Children 4 years and older, when they are indoor hallways or in indoor common areas, they're supposed to wear a mask because it's normal for a 4-year-old child to have to be forced to have a contaminated mask, which will by definition be contaminated if you're putting it on a 4-year-old child, to be able to breathe through that while in a public building. And children 5 years and older have to wear a mask when in their classrooms, homes, cabins, or similar indoor settings. Does that actually say homes? You have got to be kidding me. It actually says children have to wear masks in their homes. Children must wear face masks as indicated below. All children 5 years and older when in classrooms, homes, cabins, or other similar settings. I'm going to have to go back and alter this video at some point and mark it that there's probably going to be some profanity because I don't know how I'm going to control myself. I guess I shouldn't read these stupid things before I do a video talking about them. Oh my gosh. So we do still have, how cute. We do still have the exemptions, right, to the face mask requirement, paragraph 8 of this newest order. And what's so cute about it is that, of course, if you cannot medically tolerate a mask, yada, yada. If you're swimming, because finally they used a little common sense on a few areas here, but you have an exemption for if you're eating and drinking while seated at a food service establishment or at a private residence. No joke? Oh my gosh. Okay, so first of all, yeah, I just said to you that a moment ago we talked about how food service establishments are closed. I mean, you could do outdoor eating in the winter in Michigan if you can feel your fingers and not drop the fork and your food doesn't actually like crystallize with icicles, then you can actually eat at an outdoor establishment. I know that they're doing some grants. The state Small Business Association of Michigan is doing some grants that will allow you to, if you own a restaurant, it'll allow you to get these grants to basically create these outdoor eating areas. And what they show is basically like a greenhouse type of situation, which is an outdoor area that is now winterized and enclosed with tables and chairs and silverware and food and servers and things like that outside, but it's the same setup that they have inside the main restaurant. Only now servers will have to walk from the restaurant part, like across the sidewalk or whatever they might have to do to get to this outdoor area to bring you your food. And so if it turns out it's 20 degrees tomorrow, I'm sure your food will be really warm by the time you get it. But government, they love to step in and fix things. When they create a problem, they just love to step in and create more solutions, instead of recognizing that they're the problem in the first place. I can't believe I actually just read this in here. So exceptions to face mask requirements, it literally says, when you are eating or drinking while seated at a food service establishment or at a private residence, meaning when you are at a private residence, you're supposed to be wearing a mask. I do not know anything about the chiropractor's lawsuit, unfortunately. You've got to be kidding me. So if you're engaging in a religious service, if you're giving a speech for a broadcast or to an audience, yeah, you don't have to wear a mask. Okay, swell. So, and of course they have the contact tracing requirements. I love section 10, paragraph 10. Nothing in this order modifies, limits, or abridges protections provided by state or federal law for a person with a disability, except for the fact that it creates a whole new class of disability that would not have otherwise been an issue. Say, for example, people who have a hearing disability, who need to be able to read the lips of those around them, and you are requiring everyone on the planet to wear a mask so that lip reading is impossible. Okay. Oh. Let's see. Talks about that law enforcement officers are specifically authorized to investigate potential violations of this order. Funny thing is, they're not, but we'll go over that in a second. And neither a place of religious worship nor its owner is subject to penalty under this order for allowing religious worship at such place. No individual is subject to penalty under this order for engaging in religious worship at a place of religious worship. You know, it's funny that they try to modify or carve out where you can have religious worship. We'll just take a look at an important document here for a quick minute. Every person shall be at liberty to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience. So if you would like to attend worship in your home via Zoom or, something like that, you can do that. If you would like to attend religious worship services in a church with real human beings there next to you that are not 6 feet away from you or wearing masks or providing their phone numbers and other contact information, you can do that. If you would like to be in any other building, inside or outside, how about this? Be in any place on the planet, inside or outside, where you are gathering with other people and you are worshiping God according to the dictates of your own conscience, the government can't stop you. So it doesn't just have to be at a place of religious worship, because quite frankly, wherever you are religiously worshiping is a place of religious worship. So don't worry about that. Nothing in this order shall be taken to interfere with or infringe on the protections guaranteed by the state or federal constitution under these emergency circumstances. I love that they have that, what is the word I'm looking for? It's like a phrase that's trying to describe the tiny bits of freedoms that you get to keep. The funny thing is, the protections guaranteed by state or federal constitutions under these emergency circumstances, do you know which ones those are? Anybody? Anybody? Well, that's not true, Mike. The protections guaranteed by state or federal constitutions under these emergency circumstances. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Peggy. All of them. All of them. There is literally zero, not a one, exception in the Constitution for, okay, you get to exercise your personal liberties, except when things get scary, or except when there's a pandemic, or except, quite frankly, in any other situation. There's no exceptions, except in areas where it actually spells out. So, for example, public safety. The writ of habeas corpus cannot be suspended except in cases, I believe in war, it says, when the public safety requires it. That's it. That's probably one of the very few times that our liberties are precluded or diminished in any kind of way, but it has to spell it out there. And in no way, shape, or form does it say anywhere in either constitution that your personal liberties are diminished during a pandemic at all, ever. So, I'm just going to say, this thing is now, I don't know, the way that it printed off anyway, it's now 11 pages long. 11 pages. So when the first few orders came out, because keep in mind, I want to say he started doing these orders like maybe end of March, pretty sure. The MDHHS director has been doing these orders basically all along, and nobody really talked about them. In fact, I confronted a state representative about this very thing because there's a bill that he was introducing that was talking about different penalties for violating executive orders or orders under the public health code, things like that. And I said that I warned him that not only was the state law there making it a misdemeanor, but then the executive orders were then being accompanied by these emergency orders. And it's the emergency orders that were also integrating civil penalties of up to $1,000 plus business licensing penalties or consequences, and told him that that was a problem and he needed to fix that. And he said to me, well, no, I don't think that's happening. Or no, I guess, no, that's not really a thing. We're not really worried about that. I've been telling people for months, over 7 months, it's a problem. We need to fix it. So unfortunately, our state legislature doesn't seem to care about these things. They live in denial. Whatever. I don't even care anymore. I don't like any of you that are state reps anymore, unless you're going to turn a new leaf and you're going to pick up the Constitution and you're going to pick up the state constitution and you're going to read them and then you're going to follow them. End of story. Even if it's unpopular, even if it means you might not get that committee assignment that you've been coveting, that you might not be, you might lose some lobbyist, funding or, any other kind of special perks or benefits. You got to pick up the Constitution because you took an oath to the Constitution. You didn't take an oath to the lobbyists. So, at any rate, what about these executive orders or emergency orders? First of all, don't you love how, Mike, can you turn the heater off? I'm going to die in here. I love how Governor Whitmer is out there doing these press conferences and, press releases and issuing all these statements talking about how she is now requiring this, and that. I mean, she's been utilizing this as a tool all along, but the statute that they're going under doesn't say anything about the governor. Isn't that funny? So, what statute is this? Well, guess what? I'm going to just give you the brief overview, and then I want you to find the video. Maybe Mike can find the video and tape it. Copy and paste it into the comments for people. So there is a video that I've done, I want to say it's a month and a half ago, and it talks about these emergency orders, what they're based on, what they're not based on, and whether they're legal or constitutional. The answer is no, they're not. But I go into detail about that. So this is what I had that day. So I talked about contact tracing and microchipping, vaccines, masks being, having to be socially distant. I can't read that backwards. Doing temperature checks. This is covering all of those things that they're trying to do in these orders, whether it's MDHHS or whether it's one of the local health departments. Let me see. Okay. They're doing this for the state laws under 333.2253. And if you have any local orders, like in Oakland County and some of those other counties that came out with theirs, 333.2453, almost identical language, okay? Those two statutes allow them to do one of three things by the language of the law. So we're going to come back to things, but number one, they can prohibit the gathering of people for any purpose. Supposedly, that's what the law tells them they can do. Number two, they can ensure continuation of essential public health services. Number three, they can enforce health laws that are already on the books. What is a health law? Well, first of all, a law, MCL 8.8 tells us that a law is either something that was introduced, like the Stand Up Michigan Repeal 1945 petition was introduced. That's an initiation of legislation. So something that comes through that way and is voted on by the people. Something that is properly voted on and signed into law by the governor, or voted on, vetoed by the governor, and then voted on by a 2/3 vote of the House and Senate. That would be a law. Or the third thing that this law says that laws are would be an executive order done properly through Article 5, Section 2 of our state constitution that simply allows the governor to reorganize the executive branch, present it to the legislature. They have 60 days to basically disapprove of that change, and that's it. Those are laws, okay? So do we have health laws that require any of these things? Well, as I last checked, no, we don't. But that could very well have changed at some point. So last I checked, no, we don't have any health laws that allow them to do any of these things. Ensure continuation of public health services. Again, my other video goes into a lot of detail about this, but is contact tracing an essential health service? Is it a service? Okay, it's a service. Is it a public health service? No, a public health service would be something that you could choose to not participate in. And it's something that would be for the betterment of your health as a member of the general public. Contact tracing that's mandatory is not a service that's being offered, and it's not for the public health. Is it being continued? Well, before this COVID situation happened, it's not a service that was already being offered. It's something that they just instituted under these, under the guise of these executive orders and emergency orders. So it's not even being continued. So we're not even following the very plain language of the statute. And again, we're just ensuring continuation of essential public health services. Now, what is really meant by that? Well, these laws were initially enacted after the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. And so what do they want to have happen? Well, if we are going to have any kind of essential public health services, so let's say we have pregnancy tests or STD tests or mammograms or annual physicals for people that have, lower income and wouldn't otherwise get that. Well child checks, at different stages of your child's development. Things like that. Those would be deemed public health services that have already been going on that very well would need to continue during a time where people, where the government is basically otherwise shutting things down, or, where our whole, whatever, where things are shutting down, the whole concept of this law is so that we can make sure, if we have mental health services, those are essential public health services, anger management groups, parenting classes for people who are going through a child protection case, anything that's like that are affecting the lives of people that way. The offerings that people can choose not to take if they don't want to, but they can choose to partake in it if they do want to. That would be ensuring the continuation of essential public health services. So what about the prohibiting gathering? Well, we got a lot of provisions that talk about that. Let's see, where do I have that? Somewhere in here. I'll just take out the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging the right of the people peaceably to assemble. It's pretty clear. No law abridging. You cannot abridge the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Also, the Ninth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. You look at the clause in the Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 23, that says the same thing. We have all kinds of rights that we don't have to list out, that the government has to make sure that not only it's not trampling upon, but that others are not trampling upon our rights, our inherent God-given liberties. We also have in our state constitution, Article 1, Section 3, the people have the right peaceably to assemble, to consult for the common good, to instruct their representatives, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That can't be modified, abridged. In fact, the preamble, just a few sentences before that, literally says, we are securing these blessings undiminished. Undiminished. So if you just look at those two provisions alone, can the governor or MDHHS director or local health department prohibit the gathering of the people for any purpose? No. The legislature back in 1918 or 1919, I think is when it was enacted, they were a bunch of idiots that didn't read the Constitution. And the governor also, the governor now, quite frankly, the legislature now. Where have you been, legislature? That's why we have been fighting for the Restore Freedom Initiative constitutional amendment petition, because taking away the 1976 or the 1945 law doesn't solve all of this. So legislature, step up and do your job. You have an oath of office. Abide by it. Also, very quickly, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Article 3, those do the same things that in the state constitution, Article 4, Section 1, Article 5, Section 1, and Article 6, Section 1 do, which is spell out the legislative, executive, and judicial branches and what their powers are. And nowhere in the executive branch are they allowed to make laws to regulate the people at all. They're not allowed to set policy. They're not allowed to make laws. It says so right there. And in our state constitution, Article 3, Section 2 specifically spells out that if you are exercising the powers of one branch of government, you cannot exercise the powers of another branch of government. In case you are wondering who the MDHHS director, Robert Gordon, works for, he works for the governor. He works for the Department of State. He works for the state of Michigan, but he works in the executive branch. Is he allowed to make rules and regulations against the people? No. He's not allowed to make laws. He's not allowed to do that by decree or executive order or emergency order the same as the governor was not allowed to do that. So that's what I just talked about. Here we talked about already Article 1, Section 23 and the 9th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That's where we have those unenumerated rights. So who, for all of you who have been asking, either in this thread or in the thousands of emails and text messages and phone calls that I've been getting about, well, can my local school board do this? Can my local city official do this? What about my state rep? What about the sheriff in my community? What about the local police department? What about my child's public school teacher? I'll tell you what, governor, state reps and senators, police, attorneys, school board members, bus drivers, principals, teachers, any government employee at all, any government employee here in the state of Michigan. Not only do you have Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution that says that you have to take an oath of office. If you are a government official, you have to take an oath of office to uphold the U.S. Constitution. Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution says that you have to take an oath of office to uphold the U.S. and Michigan Constitutions. And then MCL 15.151 says that even if you're not an official, you are simply an employee or an agent, a volunteer of the government, of a public school, or any other government agency, you have to take the same oath of office that is required of our senators and our representatives. In fact, we have additional statutes on point that say teachers and other people have to take an oath of office in order to work in that capacity. If you don't remember taking that oath of office, sorry, sucks to be you, I guess. But if you're in that position, the only way you can lawfully, constitutionally keep that position is if you are upholding the oath to support the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, which means we are not going to support enforcement of all of these through statutes that don't even allow it, through constitutional provisions that prevent it. And I already went through in that other video. I'm not going to do it today. Let me just move the camera again, if I can. There we go. The terms health, welfare, and safety that they keep going over, that they keep talking about in the media and in all these press conferences, it's only mentioned, 0 times in the U.S. Constitution for health, only 2 times for welfare in the U.S. Constitution, once for safety in the U.S. Constitution. Our state constitution mentions health in no ways that allow this. That other video that's pinned in the comments here, it'll tell you more about that. But no ways does the state constitution, in the 4 ways that it's mentioned, no ways does it allow any of this. Because all of this violates this and this, not to mention a variety of our other rights that are actually enumerated in the state and federal constitutions. The term welfare is used 3 times in the Michigan Constitution, and nowhere in there does it allow any of this to be done. The term safety is in the Constitution, state constitution, 6 times. Nowhere in there does it allow any of this to be done. And I went through all of that in detail in my most recent brief to the Michigan Supreme Court, which is available on our website, restorefreedomkh.com, under the resources tab, documents, and then you'll see the documents that Katherine has drafted. Otherwise, the other video where I'm showing this board, I go through a much more lengthy discussion there. So the mask requirements, the shutting down of movie theaters, of businesses, of restaurants, of all of it. Is it legal? No, it violates the very law. It goes outside of the bounds of the very law that's supposedly giving it authority in the first place. Second of all, it violates several provisions of the Constitution. So is it constitutional? No. Under no circumstances, under no stretch of the imagination. I don't care what a judge or attorney or sheriff or anybody else says. It is so blatantly unconstitutional. That's just some of the ways it's unconstitutional. Let's look at the sports thing. So you can play professional sports, but you can't play high school sports. That's an equal protection violation right there. The fact that it's telling people that they have to wear masks and it's not acknowledging an outright religious exemption. Well, that's going to be a problem because our state constitution, Article 1, Section 4, that we have the liberty to worship God according to the dictates of our own conscience. My conscience does not allow me to wear a mask going around on a day-to-day basis while I'm trying to be in fellowship with other people. The U.S. Constitution, we have Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Free exercise of religion. A religion where the vast majority of Americans participate in it and believe in the value of community and fellowship and common worship and prayer, where two or more are gathered, he is there with you. I mean, however you want to slice it, it's not constitutional from a variety of aspects that I didn't even go into. This is just the bare minimum. Are these orders, is the order that I threw on the floor already, that goes into effect tomorrow or tonight at midnight, is it legal under MCL 333.2253? In case you don't believe me, you think I got the wrong statute, it actually says it right there. Is it legal? No. Is it constitutional? No. It violates the state constitution. It violates the U.S. Constitution. What does that matter? Doesn't government get to do what they want? No. Aren't there exceptions for emergencies and pandemics? Absolutely not. And every single government employee, government official who is furthering these orders and enforcing these orders upon people or doing their part because that's what they were told to do and they're just following orders, they are violating the state and federal constitution. They're violating their oath of office. And they must be held accountable. So I am working on some additional ways to keep you guys educated and informed and in the moment be able to look up a variety of constitutional provisions, because this is not a government of attorneys or of politicians. It's a government of the people, you. So unfortunately, this is the only kind of pocket constitution that's been available. So we've been selling at cost to us, just passing them along at whatever it costs us to get them and mail them back out to people, the copies of the U.S. Constitution. And we still have quite a few on hand, but we can't get copies of the Michigan Constitution in vast, in massive quantities. And I tried to buy them online, and you can't get them for any cheaper than $10 a piece. And they're still kind of big and bulky. We're working on a fix to that. We're also working on a special app and an audio book and a variety of other things that can help with all of this to empower you in the moment and be able to stand up for your rights and the rights of those around you. And I'm going to ask you this. If you see someone who is being accosted by a business or a government official under the guise of, you have to give me your phone number, you have to give me, you have to wear a mask, or you have to stand there, or you can't sit here, or whatever the situation is, it's not acceptable. It's just, frankly, it's just not acceptable. And I'm going to ask you, even if you're busy, even if your life is full of too much whatever right now, I'm going to beg that you please do the right thing. Those verses I read at the beginning of this video, I read them for a reason. You need to do the right thing. Help your fellow citizen. Stand up for their rights. So do your part. Don't turn your back on someone who is having their rights violated because it's more convenient to do that. That's what they're depending upon. They're depending on people to turn on their neighbor, to turn on one another, and not band together to fight against this. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, a Libertarian, an Independent, part of the Green Party, or the Tea Party. I couldn't care less. It's your job as a decent human being, as a member of the greater community here in the state of Michigan, and as a citizen of the United States, to follow the Constitution and to enforce that upon your government. And any person or private business or entity that is acting as an arm of the government trying to enforce this garbage. Yeah, I didn't pull it off. My husband was right. I'm also going to ask you to keep in mind that a court case isn't going to fix all this. Let's look at all the court cases. In fact, let's look at, what was that plan called? The return to court plan or whatever. I can't quite see it. And if I minimize the window, I'll lose it here. So here's the deal. Let's look at what our state Supreme Court has put out as a dictate or order to all of the local courts, the circuit courts, the district courts, the probate courts. What they have said is they have those phases. And I just got an email today that alerted me to the fact that the 17th Circuit Court, which is Kent County, is now returning to phase 1, which means no in-person hearings. And there's mask mandates in there. Isn't that great? And social distancing. And limits on apparently talking to clients, it says at one point in there. It wasn't really clear who they were talking to, but limits on client contact and contact with probationers too. So that's an interesting theory. That's what our state Supreme Court thought was appropriate. Even though it's fundamental in our society that you have access to the judicial system. In fact, a case that I was in the middle of reading tonight was talking about the very fact that cases at times, the U.S. Supreme Court has limited First Amendment rights to, petition or do picketing or whatnot. At times, they think it's okay if it's limiting, if you're basically picketing or influencing courts when court proceedings are going on. Well, no, I don't think that is at all okay or constitutional. But their logic was that let's see if I can find the wording for you here. They said, for example, in a case that Louisiana has the right to construe its statutes to prevent parading and picketing from unduly influencing the administration of justice at any point or time in its process, regardless of whether the motives of the demonstrators are good or bad. So it's super important to make sure that the the court process can continue to go, that they will strike down or infringe upon free speech because protecting the right to have unbiased court proceedings is so fundamental to our very system of government, which they call a democracy in this court case, but it's a constitutional republic. We won't go there. So they said that since we are committed to a government of laws and not of men, it is of the utmost importance that the administration of justice be absolutely fair and orderly, and that the Supreme Court has already recognized that the unhindered and untrammeled functioning of our courts is part of the very foundation of our constitutional democracy. I'm quoting, don't blame me. So that's been around for quite some time. But yet, a county like Kent County is now closing its doors to in-person hearings and not allowing people to truly confront their accusers and denying people access, true access in these proceedings unless they wait for whenever the pandemic to be over, I guess, even though it's the flu and it's going to be here to stay. So it's very concerning to me that given that the United States Supreme Court has basically talked about how the court processes are such a cornerstone of freedom and ensuring that our whole government continues on, that they have used that philosophy as a reason why some free speech they believe is that it's permissible to curtail some of that free speech, because the importance of the judicial role is so large, it's so prevalent, that we need to ensure that the administration of justice is not impeded in any way. Yet our state Supreme Court is closing down courts or requiring people to wear masks so you cannot confront your accusers, or doing a wide variety of other things that prohibit that. So to those of you who think that filing a court case at any level in any venue is going to solve it, I'm just pointing you out to that, because that involves things that our U.S. Supreme Court has done, as well as applying that to the situation that our state Supreme Court has put into place. Are lawsuits going to change something? Perhaps. Am I involved in any? And have I been involved in any? And will I continue to be involved? Yes. But don't look to that as the thing that's going to fix it all. That is not the Staples easy button. The way to fix this is getting involved and standing up for yourself and your friend or the guy on the street that you hardly know, that you see his rights are being violated. And with that, it's been an hour, and my quick update is apparently not so quick. So is there anything that you saw as a question that I need to make sure I address before I? I didn't ask about short. Is there anything that was an important question you feel like I didn't already address?
At some point, you're going to want to address the restaurant owner's lawsuit, and if you plan on doing an amicus brief in that, and the impeachment of Whitmer.
Okay. Should Whitmer be impeached? Yes, Whitmer needs to be impeached. The Secretary of State should also be impeached. The director of the Department of Health and Human Services is a government official who is appointed, and he must also be impeached. All of them can be impeached in the same proceedings under our state constitution. And the legislature, somebody in the House of Representatives can bring forth that. It only takes 56 out of 110 state reps to essentially move it on from the House over to the Senate. And it would only take 4 Democrats to cross party lines to bring about a conviction for all of the offenses where we've just barely begun to touch on. And so yes, that should be done. I applaud those who brought forth and support those people who are serving in our state legislature right now, who are supporting and pushing forth the impeachment proceedings. That's great. As far as the lawsuit of the restaurant, if anybody has any information on that, has any access to any of the documents that have already been filed or what court it's been filed in, and you want to send that over to us, that would be greatly appreciated. Lori might kill me, but if you could send that to restorefreedomevents@gmail.com, that would be fabulous, because I'm actually working on a brief right now on a different case, and I don't want to miss, have stuff stacking up in my inbox that I'm not getting to, but then she could help me sort that out and get to that. So hopefully, yep, Lori heard me. So I'm going to run and have dinner before she does kill me for the evening. And I thank you all for being a part of this, for staying educated, staying involved, and make sure you are holding your government officials, hold their feet to the fire. Keep them on the hook for the oath of office, which they undertook. If they don't want to stick to the oath of office, they need to get out of office immediately. They can resign immediately. That's their choice. Uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions as a public official or public employee, or resign effective immediately. Those two choices, that's all you got. That's it. If you're not willing to do that, then you will be held accountable. So, people of Michigan, start holding your government employees and government officials accountable. Every single one of them. No one is immune in government from the oath of office to uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, and there is no exception for a pandemic. All right, thanks, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I will hope to get some stuff done in a brief or two very shortly to be able to share some additional updates with you. Have a great night.